The red dust of New Terra swirled around Sam Rivers' boots as he walked toward the cave entrance. His scanner beeped softly in his hand, showing traces of organic material deep inside the rocky formation. For 3 weeks, the mining colony had reported attacks on their supply trucks. The automated defense systems had been firing at something in these hills, but no one knew what. Sam wiped sweat from his forehead and adjusted his research pack. As the colony's only xenobiologist, it was his job to figure out what kind of creature was causing trouble. The miners wanted him to declare it a dangerous pest so they could use stronger weapons. Sam hoped he could find a better solution. The cave mouth was larger than he expected. Scorch marks on the rocks showed where energy weapons had fired recently. Sam turned on his flashlight and stepped inside. The air felt cooler and smelled strange, like metal and something else he could not name. His boots crunched on loose stones as he moved deeper into the cave. The scanner in his hand showed stronger readings ahead. Sam followed a narrow passage that opened into a larger chamber. He swept his light across the walls and stopped. 2 small shapes huddled in the corner, pressed against each other. At first, Sam thought they might be large lizards or some kind of local wildlife. Then one of them moved, and he saw the tiny wings folded against its back. Dragons. Baby dragons. Sam had read about them in the colonial files, but seeing them was different. They were small, maybe the size of house cats, with scales that caught his flashlight beam. One had reddish scales that seemed to glow, while the other had bluish silver ones. Both looked thin and scared. The red one lifted its head and made a soft chirping sound. Its eyes were large and dark, and Sam could see intelligence there. This was not some mindless animal. The silver one stayed pressed against its companion, trembling. Sam knelt down slowly, keeping his movements gentle. Both creatures watched him carefully. The red one spread its small wings as if trying to protect the other, but neither tried to run away. "Hey there," Sam said softly. "I'm not going to hurt you." As he spoke, Sam noticed something odd. The red dragon tilted its head like it was trying to understand his words. Then Sam felt something strange in his mind, like a gentle touch. It was not painful, just unusual, like someone was trying to communicate without words. Sam looked around the cave and saw more scorch marks on the walls. Near the back of the chamber, he found what he was looking for. The body of an adult dragon lay still on the ground, its scales dulled and lifeless. The automated defense systems had killed their mother. These babies were orphans. Sam felt anger rise in his chest. The defense systems were supposed to protect the colony from real threats, not kill creatures that were probably just looking for food. He looked back at the 2 small dragons, who were still watching him with those intelligent eyes. "Your mom?" Sam asked quietly. The red dragon made another soft sound, and Sam felt that strange touch in his mind again. This time, it carried sadness. Sam made a decision that would change his life. He could report the creatures as eliminated and let them die here alone. He could call for a collection team to take them to a research facility. Or he could do something that might cost him his job. He chose the third option. Sam pulled out his emergency medical kit and opened it on the cave floor. The dragons watched as he prepared a nutrient solution. The red one sniffed the air when Sam mixed the formula, and its companion lifted its head for the first time. "Come on," Sam said gently. "You need food." It took an hour of patient coaxing, but eventually both dragons drank from the small container Sam offered. The red one was braver, approaching first and encouraging the silver one to follow. Sam could see they cared for each other deeply. As they ate, Sam studied them more closely. Their scales were beautiful but showed signs of malnutrition. Their wings were properly formed but too thin. These creatures needed weeks of careful care to recover from their ordeal. Sam's radio crackled to life. "Rivers, this is Control. What's your status on the predator situation?" Sam looked at the 2 small dragons who had curled up together near his feet. The red one was watching him with those bright eyes, and Sam felt that mental touch again. It was trying to understand his words, learning from him even now. Control, this is Rivers. The immediate threat has been neutralized. I need more time for a complete assessment. Copy that. Don't take too long out there. Sam turned off his radio and looked down at his new companions. He could not leave them here to die. He could not turn them over to people who would see them only as specimens to study. These were children who had lost their mother, and they needed someone to care for them. All right, little ones, Sam said. You're coming home with me. The red dragon chirped softly, and Sam felt something like gratitude brush against his thoughts. The silver one was still shy, but it did not pull away when Sam carefully picked it up. Its scales felt warm and smooth under his fingers. Sam made a temporary carrier from his equipment bag and settled both dragons inside. They did not struggle or try to escape. Instead, they pressed close to each other and seemed to accept that this strange human was trying to help them. The walk back to the research station felt longer than usual. Sam kept checking on his passengers who watched the world outside their carrier with curious eyes. He would have to be careful about this. The colonial authority had strict rules about interfering with local species, especially ones that showed signs of intelligence. But as Sam felt those gentle mental touches from his small companions, he knew he had made the right choice. These were not just animals or specimens. They were individuals who needed help, and Sam was not the kind of person who could walk away from that. By the time he reached his research station, Sam had already decided on names for them. The red one would be Ember, for the way its scales seemed to glow. The silver one would be Frost, for its beautiful bluish coloring. Sam opened the carrier in his laboratory and watched as both dragons explored their new surroundings. They stayed close together but seemed less afraid than before. Ember chirped at various pieces of equipment while Frost sniffed at the air with obvious curiosity. "Welcome to your new home," Sam said quietly. He had no idea that this moment would lead to consequences that would change the entire galaxy. 3 weeks had passed since Sam brought the baby dragons to his research station, and everything had changed. His laboratory, once filled with sterile equipment and data files, now looked more like a nursery. Soft blankets covered the floor in one corner, and toys made from salvaged materials lay scattered around. Ember had grown noticeably larger and more confident. The red dragon now stood as tall as Sam's knee and could glide short distances across the room. Frost remained smaller and more cautious, but had begun to show remarkable intelligence in other ways. The silver dragon could solve simple puzzles and seemed to understand the basic functions of Sam's research equipment. Sam sat at his desk, trying to write his weekly report to Colonial Command. How could he explain what was happening without revealing the truth? His official reports claimed he was studying local fauna behavioral patterns, which was not exactly a lie. A soft chirp from across the room made Sam look up. Ember was sitting near the food dispenser looking at Sam with those bright eyes. The dragon did not make another sound, but Sam felt that familiar, gentle touch in his mind. The feeling carried meaning now. Hunger. "Right, dinner time," Sam said, standing up. This was the most amazing part of living with the dragons. Over the past few weeks, their telepathic abilities had grown stronger. They could share basic emotions and simple concepts with Sam. It was not like human speech, but it was definitely communication. Sam prepared their evening meal, a mixture of processed proteins and local plant nutrients. Through trial and error, he had figured out what foods helped them grow healthy and strong. Ember bounded over immediately, but Frost approached more slowly, as always. As they ate, Sam noticed something new. The dragons were not just communicating with him anymore. They seemed to be sharing thoughts with each other. Ember would pause in eating and look at Frost. Then Frost would sample a piece of food that Ember had found particularly tasty. "You two are talking to each other, aren't you?" Sam asked. Ember tilted its head and Sam felt a wave of amusement from the young dragon. Frost made a soft trilling sound that Sam had learned meant agreement. Sam's computer chimed with an incoming message. He read it quickly and felt his stomach drop. Colonel Blake from Colonial Security would be arriving tomorrow to inspect his research progress. This was not a routine visit. Both dragons looked up at Sam immediately. They had sensed his sudden anxiety through their mental connection. Ember moved closer to Sam's chair while Frost made a worried chirping sound. "It's okay," Sam said, though he was not sure that was true. "Someone is coming to visit tomorrow. You two need to stay hidden." The dragons exchanged what Sam could only describe as a look. Then Frost approached Sam's desk and gently touched one of his research tablets with a small claw. The screen lit up, showing Sam's daily notes. Frost looked at Sam, and then at the tablet, clearly trying to understand what had made Sam worried. This was new behavior. Frost had never shown interest in Sam's work before. Now the silver dragon seemed to be connecting Sam's emotional state with the information on the tablet. "You're learning to read, aren't you?" Sam asked softly. Frost made that trilling sound again and touched another control. The tablet switched to a different file, one that contained images of various local creatures. Frost looked at the images, then at Sam, then pointed with one claw toward the corner where their blankets were kept. Sam understood. Frost was asking if they were like the other animals on the tablet, the ones that Sam studied and cataloged. The dragon wanted to know if Sam saw them as just research subjects. "No," Sam said firmly. "You're not like them. You're my family now." The word family seemed to resonate with both dragons. Ember climbed onto Sam's lap, something that had become an evening routine. Frost, usually more reserved, came closer and rested its head against Sam's arm. Sam felt their contentment through the mental link they shared. But he also felt something else: determination. The dragons understood that tomorrow might bring trouble, and they were already planning to protect him. The next morning, Sam woke to find both dragons curled up on his bed instead of their usual sleeping spot. They had never done this before. Through their connection, Sam sensed they had been worried about him during the night. "Good morning, you two," Sam said. "Remember, when the visitor comes, you need to hide in the storage room. No matter what happens, stay quiet and stay hidden." Ember chirped softly, but Sam felt resistance through their link. The red dragon did not want to abandon Sam when he might be in trouble. "I mean it," Sam said. "This is important." Colonel Blake arrived exactly on time, dressed in a crisp military uniform and carrying a datapad full of questions. He was a tall man with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Dr. Rivers," Blake said as he entered the research station. "I hope you don't mind an unscheduled inspection. We've had some questions about your recent reports." "Of course," Sam said, trying to keep his voice steady. "What kind of questions?" "Well, you've been requesting unusual supplies. Food supplements, bedding materials, toys. That's not typical for wildlife research." Sam's mind raced. He had been careful, but not careful enough. "I've been studying behavioral enrichment techniques. Some species respond better to environmental improvements." Blake nodded and began walking around the laboratory. Sam watched nervously as the colonel examined equipment and read notes. Everything looked normal, but Sam could smell the faint scent that the dragons left behind. "What's through here?" Blake asked, pointing toward the storage room door. "Just supplies," Sam said quickly. "Nothing interesting." Blake reached for the door handle. At that moment, Sam heard a soft sound from inside the room. His heart began beating faster. The door opened, and Blake stepped inside with his flashlight. Sam held his breath, knowing that both dragons were hiding somewhere in the darkness. For a long moment, Blake searched the storage room with his light. Sam could hear small sounds of movement, but Blake seemed to miss them. Finally, the colonel stepped back out. "Everything seems normal," Blake said. "But I have to ask about the energy readings we've been detecting from this area. Our sensors show unusual electromagnetic patterns." Sam's blood turned cold. He had not known they were monitoring for that kind of activity. "I'm not sure what could cause that," Sam lied. "Maybe interference from the mining equipment?" Blake was about to respond when both men heard a loud crash from outside the station. Through the window, they could see that one of the mining trucks had overturned near the research facility. "Looks like they need help," Blake said. "We should go assist." As they rushed outside to help the injured miners, Sam felt a familiar mental touch. From inside the station, Ember was trying to communicate with him. The feeling carried urgency and concern, but also something else: pride. It took Sam a moment to realize what had happened. The truck accident was no accident at all. The dragons had somehow caused the electromagnetic disturbance that overloaded the vehicle's control systems. They had created a distraction to protect Sam from the Colonel's investigation. While Blake helped coordinate the rescue efforts, Sam slipped back into the research station. He found both dragons waiting for him in the main laboratory. Ember looked pleased with itself, while Frost seemed worried about whether they had done the right thing. "That was very clever," Sam said softly, "but also very dangerous. If anyone figures out what really happened," Ember chirped and moved closer to Sam. Through their mental link, Sam felt the dragon's emotions clearly: love, loyalty, and fierce protectiveness. This small creature would do anything to keep its human father safe. Frost approached more slowly and gently touched Sam's hand with one claw. The silver dragon's thoughts were more complex, filled with questions about right and wrong, but also with the same deep affection that Ember showed. Sam knelt down and put his arms around both dragons. They had risked everything to protect him, just as he had risked everything to save them. They were a family now, bound together by love and mutual protection. "We're going to have to be more careful," Sam said. "That colonel is suspicious, and there will be more questions." Both dragons looked at him with those intelligent eyes, and Sam felt their understanding through the mental link they shared. They knew that difficult times were coming, but they also knew they would face those challenges together. As Blake finished his inspection and prepared to leave, he paused at the research station door. "Dr. Rivers, I want you to know that we'll be monitoring this facility more closely in the future. Some of the readings we've detected are concerning." "I understand," Sam said. After Blake left, Sam sat in his laboratory with Ember curled on his lap and Frost resting against his feet. His two young dragons had shown intelligence, loyalty, and tactical thinking that amazed him. But they had also revealed abilities that would terrify the colonial authority. Sam knew that their peaceful life together could not last much longer. Soon, he would have to make a choice between his career and his family. Looking down at the two creatures who trusted him completely, Sam realized the choice had already been made long ago. The emergency alarm in Sam's research station pierced the quiet morning air like a knife. Red lights flashed across his computer screens, and an automated voice announced, "Security alert. Prepare for immediate inspection by Colonial Authority personnel." Sam rolled out of bed and saw Ember and Frost already awake and alert. Both dragons had grown considerably over the past 2 months. Ember now stood nearly waist-high and could fly short distances, while Frost had developed an uncanny ability to interact with electronic systems. The silver dragon was currently pressing its claws against Sam's main computer, somehow accessing security feeds from around the colony. Through their mental link, Sam felt both dragons' concern and fear. They understood what this alarm meant better than Sam had hoped they would. "Show me," Sam said to Frost. The silver dragon manipulated the computer controls with precision that still amazed Sam. Security footage appeared on the screen showing 3 military transport ships landing at the colony's main platform. Soldiers in full combat gear were already unloading equipment and setting up a perimeter. Sam's blood ran cold when he saw Colonel Blake step out of the lead transport, followed by a woman in a white laboratory coat. Dr. Helen Cross, the Colonial Authority's chief xenobiologist. Sam had met her once at a conference years ago. She was brilliant, ruthless, and completely devoted to advancing human knowledge regardless of the cost to other species. "Dr. Rivers," Blake's voice came through Sam's communication system. "Please report to Colony Control immediately for debriefing. Bring all research materials and specimens." Sam looked at Ember and Frost. Through their shared mental connection, he felt their terror. They understood the word specimens. They knew what it meant for them. "We're not going," Sam said firmly. "We're getting out of here." Ember chirped softly and moved to stand beside Sam, ready to follow wherever he led. Frost was already working, at the computer again, and Sam realized the dragon was accessing the colony's transportation systems. A schematic of the mining facility appeared on screen. with a small cargo shuttle highlighted in one of the maintenance bays. Frost looked at Sam and made a soft trilling sound. The dragon had found them a way out. "Good thinking," Sam said. He grabbed his emergency pack and began stuffing it with supplies, medical equipment, food concentrates, portable power cells, and most importantly, the small device he had built to amplify his mental communication with the dragons. Through the window, Sam could see soldiers moving toward his research station. They would be here in minutes. "Time to go," Sam said. The three of them slipped out the back exit and moved through the maintenance tunnels that connected the research facility to the rest of the colony. Sam had explored these passages during his first weeks on New Terra, never imagining he would use them to escape. Ember flew ahead, scouting the path and warning them of any obstacles. Frost stayed close to Sam, occasionally touching electronic panels they passed. Each time the silver dragon made contact, lights would dim, or security cameras would turn away from their location. "You're jamming the surveillance system, aren't you?" Sam whispered. Frost made that pleased, trilling sound and continued manipulating the colony's electronics as they moved. They reached the maintenance bay without being detected. The cargo shuttle was small and old, designed for short-range supply runs between mining sites. It would barely hold the three of them, but it was fueled and ready to fly. Sam began the pre-flight sequence while both dragons explored their new surroundings. Ember seemed excited by the prospect of real flight, while Frost was fascinated by the shuttle's control systems. "Dr. Rivers, this is Colonel Blake. We know you're in Maintenance Bay 7. Come out immediately with your specimens." Sam's hands froze on the controls. They had been discovered. "Dr. Rivers, do not make this more difficult than it needs to be. We have the bay surrounded. Surrender the creatures and you will be treated fairly." Through the shuttle's small windows, Sam could see soldiers taking positions around the bay. Heavy weapons were being set up at all the exits. There was no way out on foot, but Sam was not planning to walk. "Hold on," he told the dragons. Sam fired the shuttle's engines without completing the full pre-flight sequence. Alarms screamed as the small craft lurched into the air. Through their mental link, Sam felt Ember's excitement and Frost's nervousness, but also their complete trust in him. Energy blasts from the ground forces lit up the sky around them as Sam pushed the shuttle toward the bay's main exit. The craft shuddered under the impact of several hits, but the basic shielding held. They burst out of the maintenance bay and into New Terra's orange sky. Sam angled the shuttle toward space, pushing the engines harder than they were designed to handle. "Pursuit craft launching," Ember warned through their mental connection. The Red Dragon had somehow tapped into the shuttle's communication system and was monitoring Colonial Authority frequencies. Sam looked at his rear sensors and saw 3 military interceptors rising from the colony. Fast, heavily armed, and piloted by trained combat veterans. The cargo shuttle had no chance in a straight fight, but Sam was not planning to fight. "Can you two work together on something?" Sam asked. Both dragons looked at him with those intelligent eyes, waiting for instructions. "I need you to create an electromagnetic pulse. Something strong enough to disable their sensors, but not so strong that it damages our shuttle." Ember and Frost exchanged one of their wordless communications. Then they moved to opposite ends of the shuttle's small cargo area and began to concentrate. Sam felt the power building through their mental link. Both dragons were focusing their abilities, creating a controlled field of electromagnetic energy. The air in the shuttle began to shimmer, and Sam's instruments fluctuated wildly. "Now," Sam said. The dragons released their combined energy in a directed pulse toward the pursuing ships. Sam watched his rear display as all 3 interceptors suddenly went dark. Their engines shut down, their weapons systems failed, and their communication equipment stopped working. The military pilots would be fine, but their ships were temporarily dead in space. By the time they managed to restart their systems, Sam and the dragons would be long gone. "Incredible," Sam breathed. He had known the dragons were intelligent and telepathic, but this level of technological manipulation was beyond anything he had imagined. They reached the edge of New Terra's atmosphere and jumped to faster-than-light travel. Sam had programmed a course toward the outer rim, where Colonial Authority presence was lighter and questions were asked less frequently. As they flew through the strange space between stars, Sam looked back at his companions. Ember was pressed against one of the windows, watching the stars with obvious wonder. This was the dragon's first time in real space, and the experience was clearly magical. Frost sat near the navigation console, occasionally touching the controls, and somehow understanding the information displayed there. The silver dragon was learning how to navigate interstellar space just by observing the shuttle's systems. Through their shared mental connection, Sam felt both dragons' emotions. Fear about leaving the only home they had known, but also excitement about the adventure ahead. Most of all, he felt their absolute trust in him. They had followed him into the unknown because they believed he would keep them safe. "We're free," Sam said softly. "But now we're on our own." Both dragons moved closer to him, offering comfort and reassurance through their mental link. They were a family, and families stayed together no matter what challenges they faced. Sam set course for the frontier worlds, places where the colonial authorities' reach was limited and unusual travelers could disappear into the crowd. He had enough supplies for several weeks, and the shuttle's fuel would last for multiple jumps if he was careful. But even as they flew towards safety, Sam knew this was just the beginning. The colonial authority would not give up easily. They would send more ships, offer rewards for information, and eventually track down the stolen shuttle. Sam would need to find allies, resources, and most importantly, a way to prove that Ember and Frost were not specimens to be studied but intelligent beings with rights of their own. Looking at his two young companions, Sam felt a surge of determination. He had saved them once from death in a cave. Now he would save them from a different kind of death in a laboratory. The shuttle continued its journey through space, carrying a human scientist and two young dragons toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the colonial authority was already organizing a manhunt that would span the galaxy. But ahead of them lay possibility. Worlds where different species lived together in peace. Communities that valued intelligence and compassion over rigid regulations. Sam adjusted their course toward the Outer Rim territories and settled in for the long flight. Whatever happened next, they would face it together. The crowded marketplace of Outpost Meridian buzzed with activity, as traders from dozens of worlds bargained over exotic goods and rare materials. Sam moved through the crowd carefully, keeping his hood up and his head down. Ember and Frost walked beside him, their scales hidden under specially designed cloaks that made them look like unusual but not impossible pets. 6 months had passed since their escape from New Terra. 6 months of jumping from station to station, always staying one step ahead of colonial authority search teams. The dragons had continued to grow and learn during their time as fugitives. Ember now stood shoulder-high to Sam and could fly for hours without tiring. Frost had become incredibly skilled at manipulating electronic systems and could hack into most civilian networks within minutes. More importantly, both dragons had learned to speak basic human languages. Their telepathic abilities allowed them to understand concepts quickly, and they had developed their own way of forming words with their different vocal structure. It was still easier for them to communicate through their mental link, but they could talk to other humans when necessary. Sam stopped at a supply vendor and began purchasing food and fuel for their small ship. They had traded the stolen shuttle weeks ago for a slightly larger civilian craft that attracted less attention. As he negotiated prices, Sam felt Ember's sudden alarm through their mental connection. The Red Dragon was looking toward the main docking bay, where 3 colonial authority warships had just arrived. Sam's blood ran cold as he saw soldiers deploying throughout the station. They had been found again. "We need to leave," Frost said quietly in its careful, measured way of speaking. "Now." But before they could move, a voice echoed through the station's communication system. "Attention all residents and visitors. This station is now under temporary colonial authority jurisdiction. Dr. Sam Rivers and 2 dangerous xenological specimens are believed to be on this station. All persons are required to remain in place for identification and screening." The marketplace erupted in confusion and anger. Outpost Meridian was supposed to be neutral territory, beyond the reach of any single government. The traders and travelers here valued their independence and privacy above almost everything else. "This is illegal," someone shouted. "You have no authority here." Sam saw his chance in the chaos. He and the dragon slipped away from the main marketplace and headed toward their ship. But as they reached the docking level, they found their path blocked by a squad of Colonial Authority soldiers. "Dr. Rivers," called a familiar voice. Colonel Blake stepped out from behind his troops, looking tired but determined. "You've led us quite a chase, but it's time to end this." "I'm not going back," Sam said firmly, "and neither are they." Blake looked at Ember and Frost, who had thrown back their hoods and now stood protectively on either side of Sam. The colonel's eyes widened slightly as he saw how much the dragons had grown and changed. "Those creatures are too dangerous to remain free," Blake said. "They've demonstrated abilities that could threaten human space security. They need to be studied and contained." "We are not creatures," Ember said clearly, speaking human words, for the first time in front of Colonial Authority personnel. "We are individuals with names and families and rights." Blake stepped backward in shock. In all the reports he had read, no one had mentioned that the dragons could speak. "That's impossible," Blake said. "The initial assessment classified them as non-sapient fauna." "The initial assessment was wrong," Frost added, its voice carrying a different tone than Ember's but equally clear. "We think, we feel, we choose our own actions. By any legal definition, we are persons." A crowd had gathered around them, drawn by the unusual confrontation. Sam saw traders, mechanics, and travelers from a dozen different species watching the drama unfold. Many of them looked sympathetic to the dragon's cause. "Even if that were true," Blake said, "they're still colonial property. Dr. Rivers removed them from a Colonial Authority world without proper authorization." "Nobody owns us," Ember said, its voice growing stronger. "Sam saved our lives. He is our family, not our owner." The crowd murmured in agreement. Many of the beings on Outpost Meridian had fled oppressive governments or unfair laws. They understood the difference between ownership and family. Blake raised his weapon, but before he could give orders to his troops, a new voice cut through the tension. "Stand down, Colonel." Everyone turned to see Ambassador Ward approaching, flanked by representatives from the Galactic Council's Non-Human Intelligence Committee. Ward was an elderly human woman with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Ambassador," Blake said with obvious surprise. "I wasn't aware the Council had any interest in this matter." "The Council has great interest in any situation involving potential first contact with a new sapient species," Ward replied, "especially when that contact involves questions of individual rights and Colonial Authority jurisdiction." Ward approached Ember and Frost directly, showing no fear despite their size and obvious power. "I am Ambassador Ward. I represent an organization that protects the rights of all thinking beings in this galaxy. May I speak with you?" Both dragons looked at Sam, who nodded encouragingly. This was the moment they had been hoping for during their months as fugitives. "We speak for ourselves," Ember said, "but we welcome your words." "Tell me about yourselves," Ward said. "What are your names? What do you want in life?" "I am Ember," the red dragon replied. "This is Frost, my nest brother. We want to learn about the galaxy and find others of our kind. We want to help Sam with his research and maybe do research of our own. We want to be free to make our own choices." "We are grateful to Sam for saving our lives," Frost added. "But we stay with him because we choose to, not because we must." Ward nodded thoughtfully. "Colonel Blake, I'm placing these individuals under Galactic Council protection while we investigate their legal status. Any attempt to remove them will be considered an act of aggression against the Council." Blake's face reddened with anger. "You can't do this. They're Colonial Authority property taken illegally from a colonial world." "They are thinking beings who have clearly expressed their own wishes," Ward replied firmly. "The Council's charter gives us authority to intervene in such cases." The tension in the docking bay was thick enough to cut. Colonial Authority soldiers faced off against Galactic Council security personnel, while hundreds of station residents watched nervously. Then Ember did something unexpected. The red dragon stepped forward and began to glow, its scales emitting a warm, peaceful light that filled the entire area. At the same time, Frost manipulated the station's sound system to broadcast a complex harmony of musical tones. The effect was immediate and profound. Everyone in the docking bay felt a sense of calm and peace wash over them. The anger and fear that had been building dissipated like smoke in the wind. "This is what we can do when we work together," Ember said, its voice carrying clearly over the gentle music. "We can create beauty and peace instead of fear and violence." Even Blake's soldiers lowered their weapons, affected by the dragon's demonstration of benevolent power. Ward smiled. "I think we have our answer about sapience. No non-thinking creature could create such beauty or choose to use such power for peace rather than aggression." Blake holstered his weapon, clearly recognizing that he had lost this battle. "This isn't over," he warned. "The Colonial Authority will not give up easily." "The Colonial Authority will follow galactic law," Ward replied calmly. "Just like everyone else." As the military forces withdrew and the crowd began to disperse, Ward approached Sam and the dragons privately. "This was very well handled," she said. "Both of you dragons showed remarkable restraint and wisdom. Dr. Rivers, your care for these individuals has clearly had a positive influence on their development." "What happens now?" Sam asked. "Now we begin the formal process of recognizing your dragons as sapient beings with full rights under galactic law," Ward explained. "It won't be easy, and there will be bureaucratic challenges, but what happened here today will help our case enormously." Ember and Frost looked at each other with obvious relief and joy. The mental connection they shared with Sam carried feelings of hope and gratitude. "We're going to be free?" Frost asked. "You're going to be legally recognized as the thinking individuals you've always been," Ward confirmed. "And Dr. Rivers will be officially recognized as your guardian and advocate, if that's what you all want." "Yes," Ember said immediately. "Sam is our family. We want to stay together." As they walked back toward their ship, Sam felt a profound sense of relief. The long months of running and hiding were finally over. His dragons would be safe, and they could begin building the life they had dreamed of during their time as fugitives. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time since they had left New Terra, Sam felt genuinely hopeful about what lay ahead. The new research facility floated serenely in orbit around Kepler Station, its gleaming hull reflecting the light of a distant binary star system. Sam stood in the observation deck watching construction robots put the finishing touches on the docking bay extensions. In just 6 months, their small dream had become a reality that exceeded his wildest expectations. "The first human-dragon research partnership in galactic history," Ember said, coming up beside Sam. The red dragon was now fully grown, standing nearly 8 feet tall with a wingspan that could barely fit through most doorways. Despite the impressive size, Ember's voice still carried the same warmth and curiosity that Sam remembered from those early days in his laboratory. "The first officially recognized partnership," Frost corrected from across the room. The silver dragon was working at a complex control panel, managing the facility's life support systems with the same gentle precision that had always characterized its approach to technology. "Indigenous species have probably been cooperating for thousands of years. We're just the first ones to file the proper paperwork." Sam laughed. Frost had developed a subtle sense of humor during their legal proceedings with the Galactic Council. The months of bureaucratic meetings and formal hearings had been exhausting, but they had also given the dragons time to grow into their new roles as recognized sapients. The door chimed, and Ambassador Ward entered the observation deck. She had aged during the long fight to establish the dragon's legal status, but her eyes were bright with satisfaction at what they had accomplished together. "The final inspection reports are complete," Ward announced. "The Galactic Council has officially certified this facility for interspecies research cooperation. Congratulations, you three. You've made history." "We couldn't have done it without you," Sam said gratefully. "The Council would never have listened to us without your support." "The Council needed to listen," Ward replied. "What you three have accomplished proves that cooperation between species can benefit everyone involved. Your technological advances alone have revolutionized our understanding of electromagnetic field manipulation. It was true. Working together, Sam and the dragons had developed new types of shielding systems, improved faster-than-light navigation techniques, and created communication devices that could work across vast distances. The dragons' natural abilities, combined with human scientific methodology, had produced innovations that neither species could have achieved alone. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Frost activated the main display, showing a communication from the Outer Rim territories. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the survey vessel New Horizon," the message began. "We've discovered what appears to be an abandoned dragon settlement on the fourth moon of Cygnus Prime. The site shows signs of recent habitation but no current inhabitants. We're requesting a consultation from the Human-Dragon Research Partnership." Ember and Frost exchanged excited looks. For months they had been hoping for news of other dragons who might have survived the various conflicts that had scattered their species across the galaxy. "We should go," Ember said immediately. "If there are others of our kind out there, they need to know that it's safe to make contact with humans. And they need to know that we have rights now," Frost added. "No one can capture them for experiments, or treat them as property." Sam nodded. This was exactly the kind of mission their research partnership had been created to handle. "We'll take the new ship. It should be ready for its first long-range flight." The ship in question was their proudest achievement together. Designed by Sam and built with modifications suggested by both dragons, it incorporated the best of human engineering with dragon electromagnetic abilities. The result was a vessel that could travel faster, shield itself better, and communicate across greater distances than any purely human or purely dragon technology. A week later, they were approaching the Cygnus system. Sam piloted their new ship while Ember and Frost monitored the sensor arrays they had designed together. The dragon's natural sensitivity to electromagnetic fields allowed them to detect things that human instruments might miss. "There," Frost said suddenly, pointing toward the fourth moon of the system's gas giant. "I'm detecting faint energy signatures that match our own bioelectromagnetic patterns." "Dragons," Ember said with excitement. "There are dragons down there." But as they got closer, it became clear that the settlement was indeed abandoned. The buildings were intact but empty, showing signs of a hurried evacuation rather than gradual abandonment. They landed near the largest structure and explored carefully. The architecture was beautiful in its alien simplicity, clearly designed by minds that thought in 3 dimensions rather than the flat planes that humans preferred. In what appeared to be a central meeting hall, they found carved stone tablets, covered with symbols that made both Ember and Frost gasp with recognition. "It's our written language," Ember said softly. "I haven't seen this since I was very young, before our mother died." Frost approached the tablets and began reading the symbols aloud, translating for Sam as they went. "These stones tell the history of this settlement. 23 adults and 37 younglings lived here for almost 50 years. They fled here after their original home was destroyed by automated defense systems, just like what happened to our mother." "But they left recently," Ember added, studying other carvings. "These marks show departure dates less than a year ago. They're still alive somewhere." Sam documented everything while the dragons explored their ancestral home. It was clear that this species had a rich culture and sophisticated technology, despite being classified as non-sapient fauna by colonial authorities. As they prepared to leave, Frost made an exciting discovery in what appeared to be a workshop area. "Sam, look at this," the silver dragon called. "It's a communication device designed to work across interstellar distances. If we can repair it and modify it with our own technology, we might be able to contact the dragons who lived here." Working together, the 3 of them spent the next several days rebuilding and improving the alien communication system. Sam contributed human understanding of quantum mechanics and signal processing. Ember provided the raw electromagnetic power needed to boost the signal across space. Frost handled the delicate electronic work needed to interface human and dragon technologies. When they finally activated the completed device, the response was immediate. A holographic image appeared above the communications array, showing the head and shoulders of an adult dragon with deep blue scales and ancient wise eyes. "I am Elder Kane of the refugee fleet," the dragon said in the same language that Ember and Frost spoke. "We received your transmission and are amazed to hear from our own kind. We thought we were the last of our people." "We are Ember and Frost," Ember replied eagerly. "We have found safety among humans and have been granted full rights as sapient beings. The galaxy has changed. It is safe to return home now." The elder dragon's eyes widened with hope and disbelief. "Truly? Humans have accepted our people as equals?" "More than that," Frost said. "We work together as partners. This human Sam is our chosen family. He saved our lives and helped us gain recognition from the Galactic Council." Sam stepped into the holographic field, and Elder Kane studied him with obvious curiosity. "Dr. Sam Rivers," Sam said formally. "I'm honored to meet you, Elder Kane. Your people are welcome to return home, and we would be pleased to help establish formal diplomatic relations between our species." The conversation that followed lasted for hours. Elder Kane shared the story of their people's scattered exodus from their homeworlds, while Sam, Ember, and Frost described their journey from rescue to recognition to partnership. By the end of the day, they had established a plan for the Dragon refugee fleet to return to civilized space under the protection of the Human-Dragon Research Partnership. It would take time to arrange proper documentation and safety guarantees, but for the first time in generations, the Dragon people could hope for a real home again. As their ship traveled back toward Kepler Station, Sam sat in the common area with his two companions. Ember was curled up near the viewport, watching the stars with the same wonder that had characterized the Dragon since their first flight together. Frost was at the central console, already working on improvements to their communication systems based on what they had learned from Elder Kane's people. "We did it," Sam said softly. "We actually did it. Your people will have a home again." "Our people," Ember corrected gently. "You are Dragon family now, just as we are human family. The distinctions don't matter as much as the love we share." Frost looked up from the console and made the soft trilling sound that Sam had learned meant deep contentment. "The galaxy is going to be a very different place with humans and dragons working together," Frost observed. "Other species will want to form similar partnerships. This is just the beginning." Sam nodded, thinking about all the possibilities that lay ahead. New technologies, new discoveries, new friendships between species that had never thought to cooperate before. But most importantly, he thought about the family they had built together. Two orphaned dragon babies had grown into magnificent adults who would help reshape the galaxy. And a lonely human scientist had found the most precious thing in the universe, beings who loved him not for what he could give them, but simply for who he was. As their ship continued its journey home, Sam felt a profound sense of peace. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together as a family. And that made anything possible. The stars outside their viewport seemed to shine a little, brighter, as if the universe itself approved of what they had accomplished. In the distance, Elder Kane's refugee fleet was already changing course toward home, guided by the beacon of hope that three unlikely family members had created together.